If you've spent any amount of time looking at the news or mainstream media sites within the past couple of days, within the past week or two, you'd have noticed that quite a few things are going on right now. One of the most poignant things that I have personally taken an interest in is the approval by the Australian Senate to finalise a law that bans under 16s from accessing social media websites. Now, it says the ban will be enforced by the nation's internet regulator. If you're banning under 16s from accessing different social media websites, as down here they actually specify, somewhere down here they go, they specify which websites would be banned. So the ban includes Snapchat, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram and X. Goes on to say gaming and messaging platforms are exempt, as are sites that can be accessed without an account, meaning YouTube, for instance, is likely to be spared. So it's not targeting the YouTube video sharing platform, but it is going after the ones that you typically need an account to access. Facebook, I don't think you need an account to access Facebook. Now, there's a couple issues that I want to bring to light with this, and number one is just how are you going to enforce this? They haven't gone into a great amount of detail with how they're going to enforce this regulation, but what we can assume or presume is that they will need an age verification process, and that this age verification process, what you're basically doing is asking for identification to be submitted to prove that you are over 16. In talking about how the regulators are going to enforce this ban, it's also come out that the children who do find ways to, quote, flout the rules will not face penalties. But you're having a regulation being put in place and you're leaving it up to the regulator in order to enforce that rule. But then you're not providing any penalties for the people who break that regulation. So essentially, it's just a massive financial and time drain on the regulator, which is going to draw their attention away from other things online that really do need to be tackled and properly dealt with. And there's this video here, it's only a minute long, that goes into detail about different Australians and what they think on it. And essentially it's they're singing from either one of two tunes, and the first tune is they think it's a terrible idea because it infringes on people's individual liberties and people's rights, on the parental sort of management of their kids. Like, the first point of call for a child's safety shouldn't be the government, it should be their parents. That's what the argument of some people in this video are saying. And then the others are saying that they do agree with the social media ban because it's obviously bad for children. And whilst I agree that social media has been shown to be quite detrimental to certain children depending on usage, it shouldn't be up to the government to decide who gets to go on it and who doesn't, based purely on somebody's age. Moving over to the New York Times, which also did a piece on it, they went into a bit more detail about some of the different aspects of the regulation and also talks about similar cases that have happened within Europe. And there's actually one case that I wanted to bring to attention, which was the past and current idea of a social media ban for under 16s on the table in the United Kingdom. And one thing that's significant about this is Australia had quite a lot of mandatory integration with online identification and QR codes during the pandemic. So they took the initiative during the pandemic in order to mandate people and businesses to integrate their activities with this online identifiable platform almost. And whereas in the UK we don't necessarily have that, yet they still want to have, they're still considering a blanket ban on under 16s from accessing social media. Would undoubtedly be more difficult to enforce due to the fact that we don't have any kind of digital ID system or anything like that, and the government has gone on record as saying that they reject the idea of a digital ID system. They also talk about banning smartphones or restricting smartphone use with minors, which, is a good thing on the surface. And that's the thing. Hopefully, this all comes from a good place. This comes from trying to protect children from the dangers and harms that can be shown online or found online. But the way they're going about doing it doesn't just affect the teenagers and children who are being affected now about the about the negative things found online. It would affect everyone, because if you're mandating that minors aren't allowed on social media, you're essentially mandating that in order to go on social media in the first place, you need to prove who you are. You need to, it's sort of like a papers, please kind of scenario for social media. And one of the biggest points and one of the absolute pitfalls of this ban in Australia, it only includes those websites listed, like I mentioned at the beginning, Snapchat, TikTok, etc. It only mentions them as the ones being banned. So this doesn't include those smaller platforms such as Odyssey, Kick, or Rumble, Blue Sky, etc., Mastodon. It doesn't include them. So what you're essentially doing is you're creating a new market of social media websites that primarily serve under 16s, which in itself is a bad idea that will create these harmful environments for minors, because if you have a platform that primarily serves children, you will inevitably attract people who want to exploit that. And whilst this does happen on social media websites like Snapchat or Instagram, you're not making it any better by forcing children off of those social media sites, at least on paper, to then migrate to a smaller, less managed and less moderated site, because you're not banning those for under 16s. You're only banning the big ones that have invested the most amount of money and have the biggest spotlight on them in terms of safety for their users. So I really don't think they've thought this through properly, because if they had, then surely they would see this and realise how much of just an idiotic waste of time this is, because ultimately this comes down to a lack of education. And the reason why terrible things happen to children online is because of poor education about the dangers found online. That's the ultimate problem. And I don't know why the government shies away from that fact. I don't know why they try and sort of take an iron-fisted approach to this and just sort of ban it. I mean, banning something rarely stops people from participating in it. And this is compounded by the fact that this ban is towards children who are under 16. They're very inventive. They'll just download a VPN and bypass anything, log in through a country that doesn't have this ban, and continue on their merry way. That's about it for this video. I just wanted to bring some light to this. I wanted to give my opinion on it. But more importantly, what is your opinion on this? Let me know what you think. Thank you very much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe to the channel if you are new around here. And I hope to see you in my next video. Have a very good day.